This Texas Tech Oregon game is fascinating because everyone agrees that it's close, but nobody really agrees why. And this is about Texas Tech proving that the Big 12 is real. I think so. Or is it Oregon proving that experience still matters when the lights turns off? And when the lights turn on, I should say off. Look at
Mm,
that. I don't know, off, on, you name it. When the lights turn on, can Oregon really do it? Because I think one of these narratives changed on New Year's Day, Nick.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, what are we looking at here? Because Oregon and Texas Tech, I feel like Oregon has that path where they just got in, and everyone's like, well, Oregon, what have they really done this year? They
Yeah.
haven't really, they just kind of they got the 5 seed. They got JMU. They didn't have to be in the Big Ten championship. Feels like they just kind of found not snuck their way in, but found their way into one of the best spots in the college football playoff. And then Texas Tech, on the other hand, had to fight tooth and nail to come out of the Big 12, had to win the Big 12. I feel like if they had lost the Big 12, there would be some major, there would have been major movement. Let's put it that way. It wouldn't have been an Alabama loss in the SEC championship type of movement. And they still feel to me, and this could just be me being incorrect, but this is my vibe assessment of the situation. Texas Tech feels to me like the underdog in this whole thing. Nobody is expecting Texas Tech to do much based on what I'm seeing from the talking heads out there. And being a Big 12 fan, Texas Tech is a real force.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can look at Texas Tech either way. They either have been overrated. Some people think that they're overrated, and then on the flip side, they've been underestimated. And the next, I mean, this is what you really have to decide next. Forget everything else. The game's simple. Oregon, wants to find a way to hit the run. They want to find a way to push that. I personally think that Texas Tech is underrated. And I'm going to give you a little stat here that I saw. If you compare the resumes between Texas Tech and Oregon, just compare down the final college football playoff rankings, if you will. Texas Tech beat the current number 12 team BYU by 27. They also beat the current number 12 team BYU by 22. They also beat the current number 15 team by 24, the current 21 team by 24. On the flip side, Oregon lost to the current number 1 Indiana by 10. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with losing the number 1 team in the country. Got it. They beat the number 16 team by 15. That is really their only win that you can really look into. The second best win against a G5 school, if you want to count Oregon into the mix. I think Texas Tech is more battle tested, but that's not what the narrative says. That's not what the narrative says whatsoever. And then I think you have to slow it down a little bit here and then look at how Oregon wants to win this football game. Oregon obviously played very good against James Madison in the first round of the playoffs. If they run it early, I think they win this game. If they win the run game early, they win. But on the flip side, Texas Tech has shut it down with 4. I mean, they've shut it down before. I mean, Oregon is playing left-handed. If they shut it down right away, Oregon is having a really hard time. There's no hiding here. Texas Tech has the best run defense in America, but on the flip side, Oregon's pretty good on the run side.
Texas Tech also has one of the best defenses in America. Just period. When you look at the amount of, I'm just looking at the most basic stat of all time, points. When you look at the amount of points they gave up this season, they're holding teams to, I would guess, an average of about 15 points a game, probably less. I 17 to Kansas, 26 to Arizona State, and 20 to Kansas State are the only teams that they gave up more than 15 points to this season. And obviously Jacob Rodriguez potentially should have won the Heisman. Definitely in that conversation. I don't think it's as loud as Genty and Hunter as last year, but definitely one of the he won the best defender in the country award. So Texas Tech has one of the best defenses in the country. And you're exactly right. If Oregon does get off to a good start, they have a chance in this game. But the way I look at it is if they don't, they just don't have a chance. It's just over. Texas Tech is the better team, at least when Oregon's offense is on the field. When Texas Tech's defense is out there, their unit is better. And obviously, when you look at the front and the run game, I'm not too worried. If you want to look at that one part specifically, I actually like Texas Tech's odds. Maybe Oregon can come out with some fancy plays, some trick, not necessarily trick, but some play action, some funky stuff that gets Texas Tech on their heels and gets Oregon in the game early. That's the only way I see Oregon sticking around in this one. Resume this, resume that. We're going to talk about resumes later in this show on a totally different topic. So I understand that sometimes resumes don't tell the whole story, but boy, does Texas Tech look really good and battle tested. And we just haven't really seen that from Oregon yet. So for me, I'm a big, like, what have you done for me lately? What can I actually prove when I'm talking about this stuff? Oregon can't do a whole lot for me. I am absolutely liking Texas Tech significantly more in this matchup.
I wonder, I think it's the most overrated stat in like the history of sports, but I wonder if time of possession actually comes into play here. Like when I'm thinking about the run game, when I'm thinking about stopping the run, if Oregon can control the time of possession, meaning they control what they're doing with the defense, keep the defense on the field, keep them gassed, if they can
Yeah.
have a better shot at beating Texas Tech. Because if the run game stalls, I think the game becomes about one thing, and that's looking at these quarterbacks. When you're looking at Baron Morton, when you're looking at Dante Moore, this isn't about the arm talent. This is about who survives pressure when the game stops being clean. I mean, and that's really what comes down to it. If this game stops being clean, if this game gets a little tough, if there's pressure, I mean, what happens on the flip side? Neither quarterback has played this exact game before. That's what makes this dangerous. There's obviously some potential injury concerns. There's obviously some facts that, Dante Moore, some people see him as the best quarterback potentially going in the NFL draft. What is your take on the quarterbacks this year?
Yeah, you obviously have to be aware of Morton's health. And just what Texas Tech has been through this season. Obviously, some depth there at quarterback too. But Dante Moore is potentially the best prospect. You could probably say Fernando Mendoza, obviously the Heisman winner, and there's a couple of the quarterbacks out there as well. But Oregon doesn't have some slump at quarterback, and I do think that's going to come into play here. But at some point too, you have to remember that the quarterbacks can only do so much, right? Like they can run it and they can throw it and they can hand it off. And they can call audibles, but they can't catch the ball down the field, or at least it's very rare for them to do so. And they can't necessarily run it the same way a running back would. So while the quarterback will be big in this one, I'm not going to put all of my stock into Dante Moore. It's probably I'm willing to lean Dante Moore's way in this one between him and Baron Morton, but I like Texas Tech's entire offense as a whole in this game a lot more. And the fact that they're not playing at Oregon, obviously they would be playing at Texas Tech if they were to play at any home site. But the fact that they're not playing at Oregon, I don't think Texas Tech's going to be too shaken up in this one. They played in a Big 12 championship this year. They played in that big game. Oregon did not. Baron Morton, yes, the injury concern, but that's the only concern that I have as far as Morton goes. I would be a little bit more. I wonder if Moore can handle this, the magnitude of the situation. Can he handle, being down 10 in the fourth quarter? I could see that being a very real possibility, and Oregon has to make the plays to come back in this one. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm not saying Moore doesn't have the talent. I'm just saying I think Texas Tech is a full, complete team, and they're not going to make a whole lot of mistakes to give Oregon a chance to get back in this game.
Yeah, I wonder how much the neutral site comes into play. Again, with the fact of the quarterfinals being at neutral sites, this one being at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens in Florida. I wonder how much that does come into play here. Who travels better? Is it Texas Tech, which geographically you're closer to Miami, so you would think that they would travel. I've saw some things on social media, people already making the drive from Lubbock to Miami, and I mean that's fun. That's I don't recommend doing that. I don't recommend driving that long. I've done that before across the country, but I mean, sure. That's interesting for sure. On the flip side here, how important is it for teams that have been there before between teams that haven't? Because Oregon obviously was in the college football playoffs last year. Now you could say that they were embarrassed in the college football playoffs last year against Ohio State, losing 41-21 in the quarterfinals in the Rose Bowl. But on the flip side, Texas Tech's never been here before. This is the first double-digit win season for Joey McGuire with Texas Tech. And everybody says that the only reason they're there is because they bought themselves in the transfer portal. Nothing wrong with that. Everybody else could have done the exact same thing. But how much does it matter, that experience in this process, right? I mean, Oregon knows what embarrassment feels like on stage. Texas Tech doesn't know what losing here feels like. Experience keeps you steady, but hunger makes you dangerous, right? Which one do you think is more important?
Yeah, you bring up a really good point when it comes to, the hunger aspect of it, because I think it'd be really easy for someone to look at this and say, well, Texas Tech's never been there before. They are the hungry ones. Oregon does not want to repeat of last year, right? Like they were a really high-powered team. Unfortunately, they just ran into a buzzsaw and they looked like a peewee football team out there. Let's just call it how it was. They did not look good against Ohio State. So they don't want to repeat of that. And, when you're kind of weighing the two sides of hunger versus experience, the hunger side of it's pretty even. Like, yeah, Texas Tech, it's like a different kind of hunger. It's like they didn't eat at all in the last 3 days, and Oregon's had a few saltines. Like, they're both pretty hungry, but it's about the same. Oregon does have the experience, but that was last season. That was a different team in the playoff. This Texas Tech team had to be basically perfect throughout the year to make the Big 12 championship game. They played in the Big 12 championship game. Granted, it was against a team they'd seen before in BYU, and that's always going to give a sense of not necessarily comfort, but they've played that team before, as opposed to playing some new team that they have. It's just a different process, I feel like. And so I'm going to lean Texas Tech here just because they are the Big 12 team that has to prove themselves in the college football playoff. They have to prove that, BYU was 11-1 and didn't get in. Like, if Texas Tech doesn't win this game, Arizona State was really close with Texas last year. If Texas Tech doesn't make some noise here, it's going to look really bad for the Big 12. I think that's on their shoulders. They've played in big games. They've won big games this season. Everything to me is pointing Texas Tech. And I don't know if that's because I'm a Big 12 guy and maybe I'm blinded by the light, but boy, does it seem like a Red Raiders victory this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my prediction for the comments and let people think what they want to say. But this is what I know for sure. If Oregon controls the run, they prove experience still rules this sport. And they prove that last year was just maybe a fluke against Ohio State, and they're right back in the mix if they control the run, especially against Texas Tech's best run defense in the country. But if Texas Tech forces those third and longs, if they force Dante Moore to make tough decisions, they're going to announce themselves nationally. Joey McGuire puts himself on the map. Transfer portal, it doesn't matter. Either way, this game isn't about being close. It's about being believed. That's where I'm going. That's where I want to go. So let me know what you believe and which side you're on. Big 12 statement or Oregon reality check. Let us know in the comments description below, because one of those takes are about the age fast. And we're not afraid of having takes age fast because we have plenty of those on this channel. They definitely, some don't age well and some are just what it is, but we're not afraid to let our opinions be known.